the podcast exclusively for association executives and members. Each week, Jeff interviews association executives about their victories, igniting new ideas for you to create greater value for your members. And now, Jeff Tippett.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Jeff Tippett. I'm grateful that you've joined us for today's episode of Victory by Association. Today's show is brought to you by Targeted Persuasion, Public Affairs, and Communications. When your association has a policy prescription you're trying to stop or advance, you need the power of targeted persuasion, building a successful grassroots campaign designed to move legislators and other elected officials. When you need to win, you need targeted persuasion. Learn more at targetedpersuasion.com and check out our show notes for the link. Today, I'm excited to welcome my special guest, Terrence Wiggins. Terrence, hello.
Hi, how are you?
And I'm fantastic. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day today to have a conversation with me and those that are listening to the show. I'm grateful for your time.
Thanks for having me. This is excellent. I appreciate the reach out and looking forward to talking more.
I love these conversations. I speak, and a lot of my speaking is an association, so I have this passion for association. So I'm grateful that we can be here to talk some about it. Tell us a little bit about your background with associations and some of the work that you have done.
Sure. So I'm the group marketing manager for a $6 billion medical device company called Terumo Medical. Within New Jersey, we have a smaller business unit within the bigger organization. And right now, my role is I'm as the group marketing manager to medical device around vascular closure, access and closure. It's around close to about $250 million business. It's, again, working with physicians, so therefore they are aware of the products that we manufacture for their patients to receive better patient outcomes.
Fantastic. Well, Terrence, do this for us. Tell us a little bit about Terrence. Now, this is something that people won't find on your LinkedIn profile, but something they would find of interest. Tell us something cool about Terrence.
Sure, Jeff. It's actually on my LinkedIn, but I'm going to go a little deeper and share a little tidbit about it. So I classify myself as a thoroughbred marketer. I started off marketing right out of school with pharmaceutical, then orthopedics, and now endovascular. But my first start was a really cool intern at the PGA Tour as a marketer there. So there, it was back in 2001, got a chance to intern at PGA Point of Vedra in Sawgrass, TPC Sawgrass there in Florida. And while I was there, I got a chance to meet Tiger Woods, but that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is I was there, it was 2001, and I was a big Jacksonville fan of Duval, who was coming up in the PGA Championship. So I actually was in the lunch little mess hall that they have there, and with my fellow interns, and they were asking me, who do you think is going to win the PGA Championship, Duval or Tiger? And I was all about Duval, and everybody around me started slowing down and looking at me really intensely. And then I looked behind me, and yes, there he was, Mr. Tiger Woods himself. Saw little old intern Terrence Wiggins talking bad about him in his house. But that was a pretty weird experience. But the nice thing is, I finished up my intern and hired me, developed into my marketing career here.
That's fantastic. Well, talk to me a little bit here about your association success, some victory, or some major milestone, or what do you have to bring to the table that you want to discuss today?
Yeah, I think it's what I want to be able to talk about is the ability to take a challenge and have a persistent attitude about it. I'll give you a quick little story, and feel free to have me elaborate if you wanted to go into more details. But I've been with my company since 2011, almost 9 years here. And when I started off, there was a big challenge on a specific product line that necessarily wasn't meeting its sales goals. And coming into the organization and very excited to be handed, the opportunity to turn something around, they said to me, there was a lot of challenges. The specific sales reps were not selling the device. There was a lot of physicians that were not aware of the device. There was a lot of marketing sort of, grassroots campaign that I needed to go, and a market that was very clustered, and we were the superior product, but necessarily didn't have the hearts and minds of the customers around us. So from there, what I did is I started three things. One, I thought, well, the best way to market is around education. So it's around holding forums around educating physicians, which is my customer base, on the device, and getting them attracted on why the features and benefits are superior to what they're using. But also there's that in-house sort of guerrilla marketing, and guerrilla marketing as well, and education. And that's working with our sales team and letting them know exactly what they need to say and do, and give them a great sales tool and a good sales talk track to be able to persuade physicians to use our. And the third part was, coming in. This is interesting. As I built my business plan, I spent, 3 months literally in the airport, flying around terminal to hospital, hospital to hotel, back to another account. That's the nature of my business. I felt like George Clooney in that movie Up in the Air. But as I was writing my business plan in the plane, I thought to myself, I can't be everywhere at all time. However, I need to be able to make an extension of myself. And the best way I've had to do that was to take the top selling sales reps and my top engineers, and even some of the top clinical associates, and created a special distribution. So therefore, if a rep is inside a hospital trying to talk through or working through a case, and they get an odd question or something they're not familiar with, what they're selling is embolics. I named experts.com, or I'm sorry, Embo Experts was the email distribution list. So immediately they would be able to fire off the question. By the way, I had close to 20, 30 individuals that were experts that were immediately, taking out their iPhones, being iPhone ninjas, and getting back to them to help that rep be more confident in a case, and answer that question. So again, education and providing a great support system and being persistent was the three things that I did to turn the business around. The end result, Jeff, was, we were 73% the first year. So obviously we didn't hit our sales goal. The second year we were 96%, but the third year we were 105, and it afforded me and obviously great recognition, great reward. But again, it's about just keep going at it. And the first year you may not hit your goals, so just keep going at it, and bringing bright ideas to turn things around.
Fantastic. So I've got some great points. Let's talk through some of this from what you've just shared. Let me talk backwards. So I'm going to work from the end here and then move back to some questions from earlier on. I recently became aware of a book from Nassim Taleb, and the book is called Antifragile. So let's talk a little bit about not reaching our goals, because oftentimes in life, especially for people like me that set these big, ambitious goals, like for me, like when I set a goal, the next morning I want to wake up with nausea. Like I want to be, oh my gosh, how am I going to get there? Because this is such an amazing goal here. And that's what he argues. Like when we find these times in life when we could feel like a failure, he says we have three responses. He said we can be fragile. And if we're fragile, we just are crushed by that. He said that we can be robust. Now, if we're robust, that's like building this wall, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to charge through no matter what. I'm going to make it happen. But what really interested me in this was the third point when he talks about being anti-fragile. And anti-fragile isn't being robust and just standing up anyway. It's a combination of both, where we feel the loss. Hey, we didn't make it. We didn't hit our goal. We didn't get what we wanted. And we do feel a little bit of that loss. And instead of just like building this big wall up and ignoring our feelings, we bring that in and we sit in those feelings and we feel that, but we don't let it take us backwards. Instead, we let it take us forward and charge on to make our next attempt at that goal. Any experience like with that, and when you don't reach your goal, how you feel and how you get yourself to that next point?
That's a great experience, great observation. I think what I've learned from it, I think we've all been there, right? And it's about how do you deal with it. And one of the things that's helped me is I like to out and learn from your mistakes. I like to fail. I learned so much through fail. And one of the things I tell my staff here is about failing forward, right? Because you learn so much on what not to do. So therefore, when you do have that opportunity, or whether it's a presentation or an assignment, and maybe you've done it before, well, it's like playing a video game. You get to play that stage again. Well,
That's right.
either I got to run fast faster or moves. So I look at it that way. I love being able to take those tidbits, and then when you crush it, it feels so much better, right? And sometimes you have, a little bit of luck if you do it the first time, but still you might even do it right the first time. You may say, I could have done it better. So the second time, even if you hit your goal, you're still learning. It's around learning how to take that information and use it to your advantage.
I love that, Terrence. When I'm talking on stage, one of the things that I do to set people up for my keynote and talking about, and I discussed this period where I thought I had failed, and I'm telling a story around it, and I reached this point where I feel like I have failed. And what I try to bring out to the audience is sometimes we feel that way, and I think we feel that way because growing up in school, we're taught when we get an F, it means we failed, and F stands for failure, right? Well, I think that the educational bureaucracy has taught us incorrectly. And I don't think we have to look at an F as failure. Instead, I think we can look at it as finally. And that just means finally we know this way is not going to work, or maybe we need to put more effort in, or maybe we need to change our sales techniques, or maybe we need to change our marketing plan. Finally, we know this isn't the exact path, and let's move to this path, which keeps me from having that barrier of shutting down, saying, oh my God, I've just failed. No, rather we finally know, let's head in a different direction. And when we make that mindset shift, it frees us from just shutting down. Let me talk to you a little bit about like sales and marketing and messaging and things around that space, because this is huge for associations. They work really hard in membership and getting people in the door and making sure that they have a sustainable plan there for their association. Give us a couple of tips here, if you will, about your experience in sales and marketing and things that you see, just not small, but generally speaking, the 30,000 viewpoint. What do you see that really helps to catch people's attention and help bring them into the sales funnel process?
I think with sales and marketing, right, they're hand in hand, but being a marketing thoroughbred, I look at marketing and I define it by owning a spot in someone's mind, right? Whether you're part of an association or a company, or again, you're trying to just be if you're on the receiving end, if you're a customer or a consumer, every brand interact with has either a positive or a negative spot in your mind. And if it's negative, what the company's trying to do is make it more positive by offering intrinsic value that you think that it will help you. Or if it's positive, right, it's to continue to try to capitalize on that positivity. Or there may be no awareness, right? And that's the third part about it. And some, again, association companies will have to go in and start to build that that positive or negative impression, however may that may be. When you, at the end of the day, help the other person or save them time or give them some type of benefit, they're going to continue to come back and use your device or your service. When you do not or cause frustration, right? Are you a stress giver or a stress reliever? Is how I try to look at it. And if your product or service is a stress giver, right? Then obviously you're not going to be able to capitalize on having that staying power, and you're going to continue to move from a positive to a negative spot in someone's mind.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Well, Terrence, let me ask you this. We're wrapping up here. And I'm walking away, for me at least, the big theme for me today from our time together is really honing in around that last part of just not reaching the goal and realizing it's okay. Like sometimes we feel like we're isolated, but no, we all have had that experience. And I think the encouragement that you've really brought today is, especially if these association executives have big goals and they're really out there trying to change the world for their association members, sometimes we do fail. And it's okay. Like, bring that in, accept it, and then find the new plan, find how you're moving forward. Let me ask you this, Terrence. We've got about 40,000 association executives on our email list and about 25,000 through social media. What is a final point that you would like to leave with these association executives that can encourage them and help empower them today to go out and make great things happen for their members?
I would say be patient, right? That was the one thing I would say is not everything goes as well as we plan. So practice. I mean, it's a good old saying, practice makes perfect. One good example is, I too went on stage and had to give this, PowerPoint keynote presentation. And I remember I did not prepare as well. And, the butterflies and the nervousness, and you start thinking to yourself and you get in your own way, and you know how that goes, right? You crash and burn. So the second opportunity is, I knew the next time I'm going to learn from my mistakes. I'm going to practice. I'm going to be patient with myself. I'm going to do it over and over and over again, in front of people, by myself. And the next time I was on stage, I crushed it. Standing room only, it was awesome. And that's a great feeling, right? So it's around just being patient. Don't beat yourself up so hard about it. Really, sometimes when you're on the outside looking in, it's not as bad, but inside your head, you're thinking, oh my God, this is so bad. So be patient with yourself, have the ability to go through, and then also with the the people you influence and the people who work with you as well, right? We're not perfect. So just take one day at a time.
Terrence, you're speaking to me, man. I need to hear that. That's fantastic. Well, Terrence, let me ask you this. How's a way for people to find you online if they want to reach out and ask you some more questions?
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn. That's the easiest and best way to find me. I'm also a Rutgers advisory board member as well. So if there's any folks in New Jersey that are looking forward to get in touch with me, that's another way. You can reach out through just my regular email. I'm at terrencewiggins@yahoo.com. If anybody has any follow-up questions or want to get in touch, love network. Again, it's TRRENCE Wiggins@yahoo.com. Would love to interact and see how we can help each other.
Sounds fantastic. Well, thank you all for joining us today for this episode of Victory by Association. My special gift to you today is a free chapter from my book, my new book, Unleashing Your Superpower. This chapter is on messaging. And I think as business owners and people in sales and in the association world, this is the first place we drop the ball, is when we don't know how to message well for our audience. All you have to do is text the word persuade to 66866, and that chapter is free in your inbox. Terrence, thank you. And thank you all for listening. I'll see you next week as we discover another victory by association.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Have a good day.
Thanks, man.
You've been listening to Victory by Association with Jeff Tippett. If you've enjoyed, please subscribe, rate, and review. Be sure to check out the show notes for links relating to this episode. For information about becoming a sponsor or guest, please email podcast@jefftippett.com.